Well, I think it has a very good future. The worse the environment gets, the more popular environmentalism becomes. People like James Watt do us a lot of good to really spur interest in environmentalism and boost the membership in all sorts of conservation organizations. People always get concerned about things that they think they're in danger of losing. So it often comes too late. I think America has led the way in this field. We are probably the most environmentally conscious big industrial nation on earth. Getting the parks established a little over a century ago. First nation on earth to do that. Good thing we did, too. I'm not much of a prophet. I suppose the conflict between conservation and development will grow more intense each year with the pressure of a growing population and economic demands. That's all I can see in the future. There's more conflict, more arguments, more shouting. Possibly, if the economy stays in a recession long enough, a majority of us will gradually adapt to a simpler, a more frugal way of life and not make such enormous demands on the land and the air and the water. But there's so many of us in the United States already, 240 million, I guess, and still growing. The rate of growth is supposed to be slowing down, but the total keeps growing. When I was a kid in school, we were taught that the population of the United States was 120 million, as if that were a fixed, permanent figure. And now, it's apparently just about doubled. And all of us want to maintain our American standards of living. We like having these nice little houses and electricity, running water, cars and pickup trucks and motorboats. It's hard to give up all these technological toys. We wouldn't have to give them up, in fact, if we had a small population. I guess I'm sort of not on the subject of Planned Parenthood. I think we should plan it a lot more intensively. I'd be in favor of revising the income tax structures in such a way as to reward single people, childless couples, penalize heavy breeders, make people who have, say, more than one or two children pay extra taxes instead of less. Make that a national public policy. Encourage small families. And that means cutting off immigration, too, or restricting it to a very low level. These are very delicate, touchy subjects, especially here in Arizona, and that's why I bring it up. I don't like to talk about it. It makes me sound like a racist and an elitist. But I talk about it because apparently no one else will. The politicians won't touch the subject, of course. The Chamber of Commerce doesn't care. They welcome a growing population because that means more demands for more goods, more intensive exploitation of the land and the water and the air, strip mining the ranges and clear cutting the forests and damming the last of our free-flowing rivers. But I think if we're going to have a decent future in this country, and I'm speaking only of the United States, the rest of the world is, most of it is in much worse shape than we are. If our children and grandchildren are going to have a decent life in this country, we're going to have to reduce the total population gradually by attrition, letting old farts like me die off, by cutting off immigration, especially illegal immigration, and by gradually adapting to a simpler lifestyle, doing without more things, giving up a lot of our gadgets, or making them so expensive that you have to choose. You can have a car or a pickup truck, but not both. That's kind of ridiculous. Things like that. A gradual, I wouldn't call it a reducing of the standard of living, but a simplifying of our way of living. And I think it'd be good for us. It'd be good for us to do more walking, or to ride bicycles to work and to school instead of driving a car. These are old ideas, of course. People have been preaching them now for 10 or 15 years. I don't have any new ideas on the subject. I just repeat the old ones. I think there's great popular support for these basic ideas, great popular support for environmentalism. All the polls and all the elections seem to suggest that most of the voters want clean air. They want the clean air laws not only maintained but strengthened. Most people seem to want our wilderness areas preserved. Most people apparently would prefer to live a more outdoorsy sort of life, to get away from the big cities and even the suburbs now. Apparently more and more people are moving back to small towns or even to farms if they can manage it. So I think environmentalism has popular support, has majority support, but we don't have the money, we don't have the power to translate that popular support into political action, or at least not into enough political action. Power still lies in the hands of corporations, those with lots of money to throw around.
Some of your books speak of environmental sabotage. Is that a legitimate option?
Well, I'm not going to advocate sabotage publicly on the federal airwaves here, but I think there probably will be more of it if the conflict between conservation and development becomes more intense, and if the politicians fail to follow the popular will on the matter. I think a lot of people are going to become very angry, and they're going to resort to illegal methods to try to slow down the destruction of our natural resources, our wilderness, our forests, mountains, deserts. What that will lead to, I hate to think. If the conflict becomes violent and physical, then I'm pretty sure the environmentalists will mostly end up in prison or shot dead in their tracks. So I hope we can save what's left of Arizona and the United States by legal political means. And I still think we can. I still vote in elections, even when there doesn't seem to be much to vote for or against, when there's not much choice. I think if enough people get sufficiently concerned, why we can still make changes, the needed changes in this country by political methods. God, I hope so.